Hello, this is World University and Schools monthly business meeting on Saturday, March 18th, 2023 at 12 noon. It's open and you can join this third Saturdays of the month if you're interested. I'm on the phone with Larry Wieland, a regular participant in WUaS Monthly Business Meeting. And do you want to say hello, Larry? Okay. And the monthly business meeting this week, Larry just shared that World University and School got some notices to the Canyon 94516 post office box for World University and School in the San Francisco Bay Area to forward to extend the forwarding order through some more months. So this is good news. World University and School can plan to continue to get mail at the Canyon 94516 post office box, PO Box 442, and have it forwarded to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where Larry and I are presently, and I am in a kind of asylum from California in Pennsylvania, but hoping and seeking to move back with World University and School to Canyon in September of 2023. So this is good news that we continue to have our main address in Canyon, California, 94516, PO Box 442, and we have opened a new office in Pittsburgh, and that address will be forthcoming, and Larry will be a key focalizer of the new main office in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and partly for accreditation and licensing reasons with agencies with offices in the state of Pennsylvania. So on with the monthly business meetings agenda. And the first item is, it involves both wings, both the nonprofit World University and School wing and the WUaS Corporation wing. And they're a little bit difficult to separate here. With some exciting opportunities, but agenda item 1 involves WUaS licensing and accreditation. And WUaS is excited that OCW.MIT.edu-centric wiki World University and School has the Pennsylvania Department of Education WUaS licensing authorization, which I think application fee costs $5,000. And also Middle States Commission on Higher Education, WUaS accreditation communications, that it seems like we can proceed. And the pre-application fee and the application fee together may cost $6,500. So in this process, World University and School would further explore on the WUaS Corporation side, once accredited and licensed, dual listing on 2 stock exchanges. The WUaS Corporation on the new Silicon Valley Long-Term Stock Exchange with our WUaS Lego Robotics. We're authorized carriers of 3 Lego robotics kits, and also possibly brainstorming-wise on NASDAQ itself. And because in some ways, NASDAQ is where the money is, and the long-term stock exchange is so new in Silicon Valley that I don't think it has many resources, or many investors are looking to buy into companies on the long-term stock exchange in Silicon Valley. But part of the process, once licensed and accredited in World University and School, which is Wiki, is planning for 8 billion people. And how would that affect potentially our WUaS corporation listing on the long-term stock exchange and on possibly NASDAQ. All this comes together. If we get licensed and accredited, we may be able to also develop the WUaS Corporation, our educational services store wing, which is a for-profit general stock company, in California, possibly on 2 stock exchanges, brainstorming wise. Thoughts about that with licensing and accreditation, Larry?
No, I think you said it all.
Okay. We have, I think, 18 World University and School agenda items and 4 on WUaS Corporation. So there's a lot in this hour. Agenda item 2, because I got a updated agreement notice email from Wells Fargo Bank, which said that a number of their asset classes are not FDIC insured. I took the initiative to open 2 new WUaS bank accounts with Chase Bank, JP Morgan Chase Bank, and opened this past week a checking account and a savings account. And I'm thinking about relating them to World University and School in a variety of ways, but any thoughts about that, Larry?
Well, the big thing there is that Chase does have what's the word? Bank offices at various places around Pittsburgh. In fact, they're still constructing new ones, which is unusual. Right. Because in these days, banks are closing them.
Great.
Anyway, so Chase has places where the 2 of us could reach somebody, talk to somebody, walk in, etc. Whereas Wells Fargo does not have any facilities except an ATM machine in downtown Pittsburgh, and that's useless.
Great. So in addition to what Larry just said about the Chase Bank having banks, actual physical buildings in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, whereas Wells Fargo does not, Chase is also in 48 states of the U.S. They may be the contiguous states. It may be too hard to manage Alaska and Hawaii apart from the contiguous 48 states from a Chase Bank perspective. But one of the things about the Chase Bank also is that it's near the Canyon 94516. There's a branch within a few miles of the Canyon 94516 PO Box 442 address for World University and School too. So potentially Larry will be able to, in the new Pittsburgh World University School office, go into a Chase Bank here in Pittsburgh, and I in the San Francisco Bay Area will be able to do World University and School banking in a physical bank in the Bay Area. Agenda item 3, one of the ongoing directions World University and School is moving is creating STEM and STEAM field sites, realistic virtual earth, science, technology, engineering, arts, math field sites, and something like Google Street View with Time Slider. And in particular, for my research, a realistic virtual Harbin Hot Springs ethnographic field site, and all kinds of other STEM disciplines for the realistic virtual Harbin, including brain science. And fortunately, the Harvard University Woodbury Poetry Room has a long history with audio-visual recordings of poets. And it sounds like they're interested in potentially developing new approaches for digitizing, for creating online digital poetry readings in new ways with their AUDI, A-U-D-I 101 recent 2-hour talk a few weeks ago. So I'm wondering whether they could potentially help facilitate, build a realistic virtual Harbin Hot Springs for also the 5 Harbin Hot Springs inspired books that the academic press at World University and School has created, including 4 books of poetry, and even for reading such poetry in a realistic virtual Harbin for poetry, and maybe in the context of the Harvard Woodbury Poetry Room. Do you think Harvard would have the resources and the interest to develop a realistic virtual Harbin for poetry, Earth for poetry?
Well, it certainly has the resources. Whether it has the interest or not is a different question.
Okay. To be seen. They have a few more, Woodbury Poetry Room has a few more upcoming online meetings. So agenda item 4, live from the underground, the WUaS on YouTube. Recently, the former Quaker clerk of the San Francisco Quaker meeting, Chris Moore, in the mid-2010s, posted about a new book, upcoming book, live from the underground, about the history of college radio. And he went to Princeton and in, I think, the 90s, and college radio was quite radical in the 60s and 70s. And the history of college radio live from the underground, I think, is quite interesting. And this book addresses perhaps some of these questions. So it led me to think that are all the video recordings from World University and School over possibly 10 years, mostly on YouTube, a possible resource kind of from the underground, since we're still navigating without any resources to speak of. I'm in asylum in Pennsylvania from California, and whether such one could conceive of the trajectory of the growth of World University and School as kind of live from the underground. Thoughts about that, Larry?
Yeah, except that you have to tease out in terms of written stuff, the draft outline of what you're going to do, because if I just sit down to do what you said now, it would be pretty chaotic.
Interesting. Yeah. You raise a thought that in my upcoming book on society, information technology, and the global university, potentially to be published this year, about where the information technology revolution comes from, that a final chapter or 2 could be entitled Live from the Underground and engage these videos as well.
Okay.
Thank you for that inspiration. Agenda item 5. So we also touched on this last month in monthly business meeting. WUaS has Google Cloud organization for billing and other kinds of organizational processes. And as we build out in potentially all 200 countries with Creative Commons 4 licensed ocw.mit.edu-centric courses and resources, where CC4 licensing says, 1, anyone can share it freely, 2, anyone can adapt it freely, for example, add ChatGPT, conversational AI software, but 3, non-commercially, that potentially World University and School can seek reimbursement from departments of education from all 200 countries, and maybe through the Google Cloud organization information technology platform. Does that sound good, Larry?
It sounds like what you said makes sense.
Okay. Agenda item 6 has to do with a recent article published in the Sidwell Friends Quaker School in Washington, D.C. on their approach to robotics, and that they're also accredited and licensed possibly by Middle States Commission on Higher Education, and how to develop WUaS home robotics and similar from the emerging influences of World University and School as being Quaker informed. And could this Quaker Sidwell Friends article on kids really loving robotics and doing them from a kind of creating robots from kind of Quaker values perspective, along with David Thurston, who's a World Universitarian and a longtime friend, who's a Sidwell Friends alumnus from the 70s, and whose client is Sidwell Friends in one way or another. I think he's a tutor there. In what ways could we further develop WUaS robotics, kind of emerging from possibly a Sidwell Friends Quaker school perspective for high school kids into university, online from home? And in a related vein, and it's an agenda item further down, how to create Lego university robotics. The main Lego kits right now are Lego Boost. Lego robotics kits now are Lego Boost, Lego robotics kit, and Lego Spike Prime robotics kit. And WUaS Corporation is an authorized carrier of Lego Spike Prime and two retired kits, the Mindstorms EV3 retired Lego robotics kit and the We Do 2.0 Lego robotics kit, which is retired. Could Lego come around to creating university Lego robotics kits, perhaps in conversation with MIT researchers and an MIT course on home robotics during the coronavirus for MIT students, which was a very interesting 2-hour panel, I think, at the end of the course that I attended. Larry, how to create robotics from a World University and School perspective that possibly could emerge out of Sidwell Friends robotics thinking. I think the article was entitled From Sidwell Friends, and it's in the agenda item 6, How Quaker Values Helped a Group of Middle Schoolers Shine at Robotics Competition. And also out of an MIT perspective. Thoughts about bringing these two strands in American education together for robotics?
There's a third strand, which is my understanding is much bigger than anything you've mentioned. There's already an existing competition, if you will, program every spring on a, I don't know, high school level or junior high level or something like that, where they have set up teams, and then for weeks on end, the teams are given a project, and at the end of which they have a competition somewhere in the U.S. and everybody goes to it. And it's quite a big deal. My grandchildren, or at least some of them, have participated in that. And so I really think you need to check up on that and blend it in with your thinking about the others.
Great. Yeah, maybe it was First Lego League, which may be what you're referring to.
I don't know the name, so it won't help if you mention it.
Maybe that was the competition that these Quaker kids participated in. And interesting in those regards as well. Yes, good idea. Check out the...
and it was my understanding it was mostly designed for homeschool children. So
interesting. I've haven't seen too many online Lego robotics competitions in the middle of the 2.5-year coronavirus pandemic, or heard about many. I have blogged in the past 3 years about a couple of digital Lego robotics and other digital virtual robotics IT platforms, which could inform this. That dovetails further with developing a realistic virtual Earth for robotics and Lego robotics that WS keeps heralding. Agenda item 7, a new idea with regard to aging reversal genetics. I recently searched on any courses from Harvard Medical School, from Stanford Medicine, from Yale University Medicine that were about aging reversal genetics, and there weren't any. Who would have thought? none at MIT that I know of either, like specifically entitled Aging Reversal Genetics from Harvard or Stanford. So could World University and School co-list, could our 200 medical schools co-list an emerging aging reversal genetics course with Harvard Medical School and Stanford Medical School that would increase dramatically the number of researchers? What do you think about that, Larry?
I think it's a possibility, but I think you got to find someone to develop that course. I mean, it's a good idea, but someone at one of those agencies must set out to derive such a course. Then we can bring more resources to help expand it to approach all those various universities that are interested. But at the moment, neither of us has the ability to design or do that course, and so we're looking for an author.
Where I think World University and School can also add to this process is in conceiving of a realistic virtual Earth for genetics. So in this tweet, I reached out to George Church, the Harvard Medical School and MIT professor of genetics, and Peter Norvig, the head of Google AI, and Bob Harrington, MD, the chairman of Stanford Medicine, about co-listing such a course with World University and School. Could a George Church and a Peter Norvig be the co-authors in a realistic virtual Earth for genetics? And further, could it be tailored for even everyone editing their own avatar bot electronic medical record to crowdsource the number of researchers involved in this aging reversal genetics course, and also what might come out in other ways? In addition, recently from the Google Play Store, a periodic table game appeared on my smartphone, and I downloaded it. And it's about, I think you try to get various elements from the periodic table. And it's mostly probably for teenagers learning the periodic table in the form of a game. But could one, with all the properties that each element on the periodic table has, code for that in a realistic virtual Earth for genetics that a George Church and a Peter Norvig and a Stanford Medicine, Bob Harrington, MD, maybe Jonathan Chen, MD, who's a computer scientist there in the Stanford Medical School, could help create? Or so could we all be participating in this course wiki-wise and playing around with molecules that have their different properties coded as information technology in a realistic virtual Earth for genetics?
There's this work gap between elements and compounds. Small or easily fixed gap. I really don't see much option for that happening for quite a while.
I guess periodic table, you're the ionic chemist, and they're atoms, right? Or are they molecules? Okay, so compounds refer more to molecules, right? Okay. Well, if you start with the building blocks of the periodic table as atoms, maybe it would help make the playing around with compounds feasible in their mind-boggling number.
There's a whole discipline called chemistry.
Right. A realistic virtual Earth for chemistry is going to be very different from a realistic virtual Earth for genetics, I guess. But they'll maybe all come together. Okay. This is agenda item 8 is World University and School becoming conscious. So what is consciousness? And could one say that ChatGPT, the AI conversational software, which is providing remarkably knowledgeable and fascinatingly, seemingly possible conscious. What?
20% or more of the time it's wrong.
Okay, interesting, right? Okay, ChatGPT.
Yeah, so it's still in its infancy. It's getting a lot of play in the newspaper and online. But the reality is, when you get 20% wrong answers, it's not trustworthy enough to be useful. Its big feature is it's more readable to a human, and it makes it easier for a human to follow. But that's not enough. It's got to be accurate. That's my humble opinion.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I'm asking a related question. Could these large language models become conscious? David Sharma's talk on, I think, January 20th, 2023 was about that in the Learning Salon. That 3-hour panel and talk is online. He asked at the end of this, is ChatGPT conscious? And says no, because it doesn't have subjective experience, which is different from knowledge. It doesn't have sentience, it doesn't have awareness, it doesn't have presence, it doesn't have
totally wrong.
It doesn't have mind. Yes, exactly. And
a lot of wrong things. Usually in the back of their minds, they know it's wrong.
Right. And that awareness, we don't understand where that subjective experience is in the biology of neurons, in the biology of the brain cells or the body-mind cells. And we don't have a way to explain consciousness in relationship to the biology. So David Chalmers in some ways is very much a dualist, and that's an old philosophical question. Could we code for these questions further and thus make inroads into even creating World University and School to begin to possibly approximate consciousness, be somehow aware, somehow gain subjective experience in the conversational communication process, and maybe get 98% right factual answers to questions. Agenda item 9, WUaS fighting for policing, seeking to build in policing, potentially in coding for all 7.9 billion people in a variety of ways. From the perspective of law and law enforcement agencies working together. And this gets back to a question at the San Francisco Quaker meeting on 9th Street, and possibly fighting for policing there, both U.S. federal and state of California, regarding SF Quakers and the American Friends Service Committee, San Francisco offices above the San Francisco Quaker meeting, which seemed to keep policing at bay, where Chris Moore, the clerk of the San Francisco Friends meeting in the mid-2010s, was maybe occurred, the keeping police at bay before and after Chris Moore left as well. He went to the Philadelphia area with his family. He and his wife became professional Quakers in the Philadelphia area. And the San Francisco Quaker meeting may have kept policing at bay also by not doing first day teachers' legal background checks. And this is a question of, for World University and School, how could we seek to protect people, potentially at World University and School too, by fighting for policing? And it relates to my field site as well. And with regard to Harbin Hot Springs ethnographic field site, and possibly fighting for policing both U.S. federal and state of California, and pre-Harbin Hot Springs fire of 2015, which razed Harbin, Heart Consciousness Church, Harbin kept policing at bay, and I'm an ethnographer of Harbin. For example, with a Harbin MD, a Harbin managing director, Rosemary Cordova, who gave me a number of rides in from Harbin to the San Francisco Bay Area around 2005, who was married or divorced from, and they had a kid together with a California Lake County sheriff. So state of California law with regard to policing is it's in its own libertarian space. And for both maybe the San Francisco Quaker meeting and the Harbin Hot Springs Heart Consciousness Church property. But one of the questions I wonder about is how could policing maybe improve? And would that be through some sort of undercover policing? There was a guy named Bamboo at Harbin from around 2005 to 2015 when I was doing much field work there. I wondered about him. What has the federal government done is doing, for example, with policing in both of these situations? This second question about fighting for policing at Harbin Hot Springs is a retweet of Lillian Thomas's, who's a managing the Midwest head of the Wall Street Journal and the Pittsburgher, recent tweet about an article on the Oglala Sioux tribe, which once fought the westward push of the U.S., is now fighting for policing help, it says was promised in 19th century treaties. Policing on federal and state on reservations, Indian reservations, which have their own laws and their own history of legal processes, is its own separate set of legal processes and questions, because reservations have their own legal history. But all of these questions make me wonder how to protect people at World University and school, and possibly in coding for all 7.9 billion people on the planet. Any thoughts about all of that, Larry?
Oh, that's a big topic. Other than vaguely talking like we're doing right now, I don't see how either of us have any experience to help there. So
I maybe have gained some new experience here in Pittsburgh since September of 2022. Who knows how criminals could become even police officers, social psychology wise. Zimbardo, Milgram, Darley, and Batson, the Stanford, Yale, and Princeton social psychology studies from the early 70s, where people are changed by the social determinants. Prisoner and guard experiment by Zimbardo at Stanford in 72, where 20-year-olds were given the roles of prisoners and guards, and within an hour or two, they started acting that way, those ways. But these experiments, they're science. We can shape roles through social psychology. And Dennis Eppel and Linda Argote is, I think, a social psychologist too, a CMU professor, but with an industrial focus. Fighting for policing, what does that mean post-pandemic, and with the digital age, are all sets of interesting questions to protect people. Agenda item 10 in the remaining 25 minutes. In what ways could we develop 200 online WS law schools? And this is also something we addressed last monthly business meeting, retweeting Tom Martin of LawDroid, whose AI software in 2017 helped incorporate the WS Corporation. And in ethical and legal ways, innovative ways, and legal hack ways, how could we grow our WS law schools to potentially teach creative approaches to developing law to help protect people, I guess, is the question. Many different avenues for our 200 law schools, including how to write law for possibly cryptocurrency in all 200 countries. But this is one angle I just wanted to include in this monthly business meeting, again in agenda item 10. Agenda item 11, 200 online WS medical schools. In what ways could they develop with online teaching hospitals, but particularly in conjunction with university hospitals, like possibly the University of Pittsburgh Medical School Shadyside Hospital? It seems like university hospitals on the ground, physical ones, can be remarkable sites of robotics innovation in all their separateness of university hospitals in all 50 US states, and that they could be remarkable sites for differential innovation. In what ways could World University and School help with that, with a realistic virtual earth for robotics as well, and for medicine?
Occurs to me to mention now something that I mentioned to you maybe 10 years ago, and you may have forgotten. Because of the threat to their existence if they lost the lawsuit, almost all university hospitals are no longer connected to the university whose name they bear. UPMC, for example, is not connected to the University of Pittsburgh. St. Louis University Medical School and Medical School is not connected to St. Louis University
I think,
in any sense. They don't even have the same president or board of trustees. They are legally different entities. Now, you say, okay, they still know one another. Yeah, for a while that covered the gap, but it's been more like 15 or 20 years since they started separating. And so you can not get the same thing. And I think in your language, you sort of conflate the two as if they're the same, and they're not.
well, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I also in quite a few emails have been exploring with regard to even my father's first subdural hematoma on a University of Pittsburgh managed semester at sea trip in Belize internationally in December 30th, 2004. The role of the University of Pittsburgh possibly in organized crime. And that's more than 10 or 15 years ago. But where I see the University of Pittsburgh playing a role in the names of all of these institutions, whether it be University of Pittsburgh Medical School itself, or University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, Shadyside Hospital, or the University of Pittsburgh Medical Centers in Maryland, or the University of Pittsburgh Medical Centers in West Virginia, these three states, is that federal law can play a role in the University of Pittsburgh Medical Centers in a very different way now that they're in three states as the University of Pittsburgh Medical Centers. Whether that relates also to the University of Pittsburgh Medical School, about 2 miles from University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, Shadyside Hospital, which I think is the issue you may be raising, is interesting. But I also am reminded of.
I think what I'm basically saying is they have designed this so that the average consumer thinks that the University of Pittsburgh is connected with UPMC, and they're not.
These are interesting questions with regard to law and law enforcement as well, from the federal perspective, and I think that federal law could play a role in some of these. When my friend Tim Lender-King, Special Envoy to Yemen in the U.S. State Department, and I were hiking last October, I think he was turning deeply red after I was mentioning that I had passed accidentally a UPMC center in Maryland, which is University of Pittsburgh, which Maryland doesn't is incongruous. University of Pittsburgh Medical Center Maryland, and I'm not sure why he was turning deeply red, but
Exercise.
I'm also appreciative that with 3 states, that there is a much greater role for federal involvement in all these University of Pittsburgh entities.
I just brought it up to remind you that this happens. Because your language was moving into what I'm criticizing for the average person. They think they're all the same. Those UPMC branches that you mentioned in different states are not. You might as well call them Institute 1, Institute 2, Institute 3. They don't have any connection directly.
I sense that the University of Pittsburgh name continues to play a role, if only historically. That the separateness of them is an aspect of writing legal language and the growth of institutions sociologically. I just want to raise the question of Kaiser Permanente in 8 U.S. states compared to University of Pittsburgh Medical Center in 3 U.S. states, that there's also a role there for federal law, and also that Kaiser Permanente has begun a medical school in Southern California, I think, within it. So it's not Stanford Medicine, it's not any of the like UC San Francisco Medical School or UC LA's medical school, that there is an opportunity with both these University of Pittsburgh Medical Center in 3 states and Kaiser Permanente in 8 states, and World University and Schools Medical School in the US, potentially in all 50 states, to collaborate, and with the help of possibly federal law as well, maybe with uniformed agencies, uniformed services as well, agencies.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just wanted to correct your language and bring up the point.
Okay, great. Agenda item 12, had a great conversation with Ninopa Vanda in South Africa on Monday, February 27th. The recording gives a lot of insight in how World University and School could be of help with its free MIT-centric degrees to all 59 million people in South Africa, especially those on the townships, and in a variety of ways, and even for careers. Potentially through, if we can create online robotic stores, online and physical educational services stores, books, robotics, computers, hospital technologies for South Africans, growing to the size of Walmart, possibly 2.3 million people in 50 years. So that's medical school there too, would be I guess how World University and School would navigate protecting people with our medical schools in all 200 countries is a question you've raised for me, with your mentioning UP, University of Pittsburgh Medical Schools and University of Pittsburgh being all separate institutions. I think we will be able to develop abolition approaches in new ways. I think you would possibly say these places are siloed, and this is unfolding. I'm seeking to grow on behalf of World University and School and abolition movement in some of these regards. In what ways, in a related vein for WS medical schools, agenda item 13, could we even develop psychiatry, chat GPT, conversational AI software, and even psychoanalytic software along the lines of, I'll read the tweet, MD Psychiatry, WS Psychiatry, wiki subject page, wiki school in all languages with WS artificial intelligence, Google Bard, chat GPT, conversational theoretically, and Jacques Lacan, MD focused, and Pittsburgher George Ludovic Alexander, MD focused, with potentially Tufts Medical Center, University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, Kaiser Permanente, NorCal large language models. The possibility of you mentioned you said it occurs to you. I think I heard the word dog in there 5 minutes ago. You said, I think you said it occurs to me, or it occurs to me. And one of the questions I wonder about is how to bring MD psychiatry to people who could benefit from it. I remember George Alexander, MD, a family friend, brilliant, maybe genius, Lacanian psychoanalytic psychiatrist, talking about in his clinical practice, someone having trouble getting started in the 4 to 5 day a week, hour-long 4 to 5 day sessions that were typical of psychoanalysis, with him as an MD psychiatrist, psychoanalyst, and getting people started with online chat GPT, WUaS psychiatry, psychoanalyst analysis might be one question that coders of psychiatry chat GPT could navigate, and to protect people from perpetrators, criminals, things like that. So I think I hear what you're saying, that institutions, even within the University of Pittsburgh, are siloed. And I think it may reflect a sort of state-federal sort of siloing of states, where the federal government continues to figure out how to protect people, possibly when states aren't, for example. These are questions I'm not sure we're on the same page here, but ongoing seeking to protect people here at World University and School. It may give us the opportunity to code for 7.9 billion people. If we can effectively protect people, or seek to protect people with law enforcement, avatar bot electronic medical records, and machine learning and AI and similar. I'm going to skip on in the remaining 10 minutes or so. Beyond what is a wiki school, an AI wiki school, add chat GPT, make it conscious, make it knowledgeable, increase its knowledgeable responses, make it interactive in a way that the chat GPT conversational wiki subjects, wiki schools understand what a student might want to learn, as a teacher might, a live human conscious teacher might, in students in their class. It would potentially allow personalization of learning with wiki school chat GPT AI conversation teachers as conscious in new ways for the potential student learner. I'm going to skip realistic virtual Earth for history. Agenda item 15, bring the C&O Canal, Chesapeake and Ohio Canal, alive historically with realistic avatar bots in the back of our glasses. We touched on that a couple monthly business meetings ago. Agenda item 16, WUaS and Google AI. First look at what's next in AI. Remarkable opportunities that World University and School is in Google AI, in Google Workspace, in Google Education, and that link is worth reading for people who are looking at the agenda online after the fact of this monthly business meeting. Reaching out to agenda item 17 to Google educators groups in India, and seeking to, through these newly Google educators groups, Pennsylvania, and Google educators groups in India, begin to find students in all 22 official languages in India. Have sent some emails to Google educator groups, email groups. Agenda item 18, WUaS moving back into Canyon, into a newly safe Canyon 94516, September of 2023, is something you may have referred to, Larry, with the letters that came to your house regarding extending the United States Postal Service forwarding order. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah.
Okay.
You shouldn't shouldn't make any plans or let words out to people until it's for sure what's going to happen.
These are good thinking.
I mean, if you send a letter now to Tangent address, by the time it gets to me here in Pittsburgh, it'll be a month or two. I mean, it's really slow service. I don't know what the post office does. Only when they have nothing else to do, I guess, do they bother to do that stuff.
Are you saying? Were you saying at the very beginning of this monthly business meeting today that you received the handwritten email, the handwritten paper?
No. I received an automatically generated letter following up after whatever number of months since you filed the form, reminding you that you have to file it again at a certain time or it's going to expire.
Great, interesting. No, I mean, that reminds me to note in this video recording that I did send a handwritten test mail to.
I still did not get that.
Okay, that I did send back in, I think, September or October of 2022, a handwritten test piece of mail to myself at P.O. Box 442 Canyon, California 94516 that that should have been forwarded to Larry Veland's address on North Highland Avenue in Pittsburgh, and Larry just said he did not get that. And so that there may be a breakdown in the United States Postal Service federal agency.
They just don't put very high priority on doing that stuff. And so the service is basically useless now.
You're saying the United States Postal Service post office is useless?
I don't know. Well, it's probably the branch in Canyon that's not doing their job. Or you could argue that that's why you did the test letter, that nobody's sending us mail there. Well, that possibly too.
It's also it's the branch that Moraga is related to is in the town of Rheem, R-H-E-E-M. That's the sort of main post office in the area. Great. I just want to note one further United States Postal Service breakdown with regard to my unsafe house that I was living in north of Berkeley in El Cerrito during the coronavirus pandemic for a year and a half or two or so. That there was a piece of mail with a check in it that was not delivered, and I got an email once I had moved back to this asylum place of Pennsylvania from California from my former landlord north of Berkeley that that piece of email had been finally reached 4 or 5 months later, the Arlington Boulevard address, and that it was open. So United States Postal Service as a federal agency, crime, possibly, that mail was opened, for example. That's crazy.
Anyway, I was just taking the motive that don't get people confused by giving them alternate addresses.
Okay.
Don't say anything ever more again about moving to California until it's done.
Well, I mean, it's great that we still have this address of the P.O. Box 442 Canyon 94516 because of the forwarding letter you just told me about at the beginning of monthly business meeting. So I think that address is still operative. Hopefully we're mostly online, but all of the addresses are rather chaotic. But the P.O. Box 442 Canyon, California 94516 is the best main central address because the Velands may be moving or may not. And keep sending checks and similar for both nonprofit World University and School, as well as information from the California Franchise Tax Board, for example, about WS Corporation to the P.O. Box 442 Canyon 94516 address. Potentially it will be forwarded.
The same message is don't mention anything about the possibility of our moving until we actually do.
Well, I mean, I have given your 1406 address in the past at North Highland, but that's
No, it's not North Highland. It's North Negley.
North Negley. I mean, that information is out there too. But these addresses have been posted, but there's been enough change, including this East End Avenue address, to make it confusing for people. So ongoingly, PO Box 442 Canyon, California 94516 is the main address. It hopefully it will work in some cases. Hopefully we'll move online as much as possible. 4 minutes, changing wings, WS Corporation, WS Press. Agenda, 4 items. Agenda item A. We received, astoundingly, a Stanford MindPy letter partnership opportunity for the WS Corporation from Stanford MindPy on March 14th, Tuesday, this past week, from Palo Alto, California. From the email thread after I sent in a partnership proposal for Stanford MindPy WS Corporation, their email thread was titled Potential Partnership Opportunity with Pi. And it was from Pi support at mindpi.com. And it was addressed to me and to someone in India on the director of the Pi support team, Swarup Pudel, I think is his name. And the letter reads, to me and Swarup, Dear Scott from World University and School, I hope this email finds you doing well. I wanted to follow up on your communication regarding a potential partnership with Pi. As you expressed interest in exploring this opportunity further, I have CC'd our community director, Swarup, in this email. Swarup will be able to provide additional insights into the potential partnership opportunities. Sincerely, Pi Network Support Team.
Okay.
Incredible.
That means they know about us, but I don't know what it means in real terms.
It included an attachment of the PDF that I had sent them, which was quite involved and detailed about coding for 7.9 billion people and possibly getting reimbursement to World University and School from departments of education in all 200 countries, possibly in Stanford MindPy cryptocurrency, possibly with an exchange rate between Stanford MindPy and the US dollar in the interim, and maybe paying for Lego robotics in Stanford MindPy after a time too. And I think the 7.9 billion people could be interesting to them. Agenda item B, the new Pixel 8 smartphone is coming out. And could we carry this also in our WS educational services stores for books, computers, robotics, hospital technologies? So we're planning physical, digital educational services stores in all 200 countries. It's going to have the new Google Tensor G2 chip, which will, I think, facilitate possibly virtual reality in remarkable new ways. And the new chip is made by Samsung. Would we be able to get collaborating with Samsung AI and Google AI further, because we're in Google Education, and if we carried this phone for remarkable virtual reality and for virtual reality stores, physical, digital ones, hopefully. Agenda item C, the WS Corporation and Rebuild the World with Lego Education. We got an email from Lego with that title, Rebuild the World with Lego Education. And I emailed them back, a woman named Hannah, a woman named Jenny Nash, who is a Lego educator, and I think knows the Lego community and is sort of a key representative of the Lego Foundation, Lego education community in the Boston area, was the key addressee. And I I asked about our further authorized official relationship with Lego Robotics, and they sent a number of emails back after my long email to them, and I think they're interested and engaged. So hopefully that's proceeding, that we have a little further communication with Lego education for our Lego robotics kits is cool. Agenda item C, we're at 1:01 time-wise. Can we go the last two items, Larry?
Sure.
Okay. I guess we're only down maybe to the last one. Agenda item D. I reached out to MacLeod Software, spelled MCLEOD SOFTWARE.com. It's a sign I've seen on the back of a lot of trucks coming across the country this last August and previous years too, and then most recently in some trips around Western Pennsylvania. And asked Tom MacLeod, who's the owner of MacLeod Software for 37 years, about possibly collaborating. And even for WUaS, as we seek to grow a fleet of Toyota Prius electric autonomous vehicles, van trucks, and even with Toyota humanoid robots, like the THR3s, Toyota humanoid robot 3s, as 2 autonomous systems, and in all 200 countries in their main languages, and for our emerging physical digital educational services stores. Haven't heard back. I emailed him and my cousin, who's a former Chevron executive, Mark MacLeod, in Portland, Maine, and also in Newfoundland. And I would think that they might be interested. Tom MacLeod is in Alabama, and his company is based in Alabama, MacLeod Software. And I've added them to the World University and School emailings. Any further thoughts about growing our fleet of Toyota vans for delivery and humanoid robotics before we close, Larry?
I step to reach out to him, and once he responds, though, I don't know what else you can do.
Yeah, great. It would be great if we did get monies from the federal government, for example, to begin to license and accredit, and also maybe on the WS Corporation side to begin to grow our physical digital educational services stores. If we could reach out to Tom MacLeod further in these regards, if we had monies. Maybe they'd really want to get into humanoid robotics as well, and maybe they have the software infrastructure. I thank you for saying it was a good idea to reach out to him.
Okay.
Any further thoughts before we close here?
Nope.
Great. So thank you, Larry Wieland in Pittsburgh. This is World University and Schools Monthly Business Meeting on March 18th, 2023. I'll post this to the YouTube channel, youtube.com.
2023, please. You got the wrong year.
Well, I thought it March 18th, 2023. Thank you. I'll post this to the YouTube channel for World University and School, youtube.com/Scott MacLeod World University. I'll also post the recording of this monthly business meeting to twitter.com/WORLD-UNIVANDSCH and at WUaS Press at Twitter as well. Until next third Saturday of the month in April, which is April 15th, I think.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Busy on taxes.
Yeah. WUaS. All right. Good to talk, Larry. Thank you. Bye for now.